Welcome to the Growth Buyer Podcast, where we engage with top business leaders who share their experiences and provide real insights that help them attract customers, retain staff, and grow their bottom line. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi there, my name is Kevin Horrigan. I'm the guest of the show where I feature inspiring leaders from various backgrounds and industries who are willing to share their success stories and their insights. Our podcast today is brought to you by Spinutech. Spinutech is a digital advertising agency with over 165 team members across the United States who help our clients attract new customers, retain existing, and ultimately help them grow in their profits and revenues. Thank you, Spinutech, for your partnership. And our guest today is Carrie Charles. Carrie is the CEO and co-founder of Broadstaff, a national staffing firm that specializes in workforce solutions for the telecommunications and the technology sector. Under Carrie's leadership, Broadstaff has been recognized one of the fastest growing companies by the Inc. 5000 and the Tampa Bay Business Journal's Fast 50 competition. She's also an amazing thought leader in workforce development, diversity, and women in tech, and is a frequent keynote guest speaker and attendee at many guest conferences. She hosts her own podcast called the 5G Talent Talk Podcast, which is on RCR Wireless News. As a mother of a childhood cancer survivor, Carrie has also aligned herself with a personal mission to position herself on the board of directors of the National Pediatric Cancer Society. Carrie, thank you so much for joining our podcast today.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. I'm really excited. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, Carrie, I know we got to know each other over the last couple of years, but our guests probably don't know you as well as I do. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you went to school, maybe what you wanted to be when you grew up, and so on and so forth?
Yes, absolutely. This may take a while, but no. I grew up in Tennessee, really small town in Tennessee. So I'm a Southern girl. And it's interesting because I started at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, so volunteer. And then my story, it's very interesting. So my father had a stroke and, I had to actually take care of some things for him on the health side. And he ended up passing away. And I just was really lost. So one day I was in a parking lot. It was really, I was only a sophomore at University of Tennessee. I was at a parking lot and a Marine Corps recruiter came up to me and he said, "Hey, I want to tell you about the Marines." And my friend looked at me and she's like, "You could never do that." And I'm like, "Watch me." And so I literally walked right over and joined the Marine Corps right there. And so I did not complete my college degree, but I'm proud of it because I feel like there's so many people that don't necessarily want to or need to go that route. So I feel like I'm a model for those people.
And so you joined the Marine Corps from that parking lot conversation because your friend dared you that you could.
Yes. Yep.
We're going to dig in deeper into that.
Yes, we are.
So you went to college not to be in the Marine Corps, though. What was your vision going into college?
It's interesting because I wanted to, when I was younger, I wanted to be a country music singer. And then I was afraid to sing in front of people. And so I couldn't do that. But I went into college with hopes to be an attorney. And I don't even know why. Like, I don't even think I had a reason. I think I just chose it because there was a lot of money in it. And It's interesting because my son just graduated from law school last weekend.
Wow. So, Carrie, I think sometimes in people's journey, they choose to be a lawyer or something like that. Did you have a childhood neighbor or from a friend of yours whose father was an attorney or something like that? Is that maybe where the influence came from?
I don't think so. I just know that when I was younger, my mom was a housekeeper and I would go with her to clean houses. And we would be in these huge houses, right? That people had lots and lots of money. And in my mind, I just connected the two. I'm like, I want to make a lot of money. I want a big house. I want to get out of this town and, accomplish great things. And so who makes the most money? An attorney. So I don't know. I just picked it out of the blue. So, but I ended up not being an attorney. But like I said, my son is, thank God.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations for graduating law school.
Thank you.
So, you say your journey didn't end up completing college, but you went to the Marine Corps and you're proud of that. So maybe your original goal was, graduating college to see what doors would open for you. But, you're proud that the Marine Corps maybe gave you the opportunity where you're at today. What was it that you learned in the Marine Corps and how did that help you grow into who you are today?
Oh, huge discipline. I didn't have discipline growing up. I came from just a wild home, right? Background. And there was no discipline. I mean, I lived on my own since I was 16 and And so the Marine Corps really taught me discipline, and I use that to this day. And it's so important in growing the company and really what I teach to my employees as well.
Wow, that's great. That's great to hear. So, Carrie, early up into this podcast, you shared, you lost your father at an early age, and you shared, you're on your own since you were 16, and your story doesn't come with a gold paved street that was guaranteed for success. You certainly made it on your own and learned along your journey. And I think I look at you, and I've talked to you and mentioned numerous times before. I think of just a dynamic sense of tenacity. You were challenged by the person in the parking lot, your friend, to say, you would never do that, but you said, watch me, and you did. For audience who maybe doesn't have the same gold highway of success, how would you help share inspiration for others who maybe are not knowing they want to live in a big house and things of that nature? What could you share to help them grow on their journey?
You're right, Kevin. I mean, I've been through a lot. I've had practically my entire family has passed away, some to suicides. My son had cancer, grew up, in a trailer park and everything. I mean, there was just a lot of financial challenges growing up and a lot of abuse, a lot of, it was just a lot, right? And so I look at that, and your question is interesting, because I think, okay, what is it that, how do I inspire myself? Where did I get this drive from? Right. And how could I help other people get the same thing? And I'm thinking about my mom and my stepfather, because it's interesting, because when I was younger, my mom told me over and over and over again, never depend on a man, always be independent and have your freedom financially. And because she was married 5 times, she was always, and we, as we were always dependent upon someone. And my mom didn't make very much money at all, either as a seamstress or a housekeeper. So and it was something that we always felt like we were trapped. And so she would tell me that over and over, and that stuck with me, that financial freedom, create your own freedom, be independent. My stepfather, on the other hand, one of my stepfathers, one of the 5 who stayed with us the longest, he would always tell me, he was just so negative, and he would say horrible things about me, and I don't know if he thought he was trying to do me a favor by being negative and helping me grow, but and maybe he did, right, in hindsight, but just, you're never going to be anything. You're just, just all kinds of just crazy, awful, conversations that would enter my brain. And so I was determined to prove him wrong. And I had this thing inside me, and I grew up with this, like, prove them wrong, prove them wrong. Every single time someone would tell me I can't do something, it literally ignited a fire. Talk about growth fire. It ignited a fire inside me. And I'm like, watch me do this. And I would move mountains to make it happen when somebody told me I couldn't do something. So I think, that has been a real driver in what was pushing me. And something new now, Kevin, is, just really, it's been more purpose. I'm more purpose driven in the past, let's say, decade or so, because it really just breaks my heart to see people who don't see their potential and greatness. Yes. And so I have a responsibility on this earth to help people break down barriers and help them, step into their greatness, live their best life. And so that's really driving me now, is this purpose that I've got X amount of time and I have to touch millions of people.
Yeah, there's a lot to dig into and all of that. You talk about the one stepfather who was negative, and maybe it was just his way of trying to challenge you or make you get better by, maybe saying things of that nature. But to share that, I reflect on your girlfriend in college who told you you'll never do that to the Marine recruiter, and you said, watch me, right? And so maybe that stepfather was saying you'll never get to anything, and the tenacity to prove people wrong. An example of that was a sophomore in college sitting in a car, and a Marine recruiter came up to you. And so, but often, we're a byproduct of our upbringing, and then what we intentionally as adults choose to change it. And so obviously with the upbringing you had, you've made some definite intentional choices to change it. I think that's an amazing story. once you got out of the Marines, the Marines set you up to do what? When you were in the Marines, did you think you were going to do a 2-year stint? What was your vision? Obviously you wanted to prove your girlfriend wrong and you didn't feel like you're on the right path. You were learning great discipline. How did that discipline start to create a vision of what you would be like in future military services life? Or you knew you didn't want to do that long term, but you wanted to take the nuggets you had gotten out of it and take it somewhere else?
Yeah, so I got so much out of the Marines. I mean, it really helped me to be who I am. And I have a tattoo of a wolf that I will always keep to remember that. But when it wasn't really for me long term. And again, I had this picture, this vision in my mind that I had a big job to do on Earth. And I just needed to find what that was. So I got out of the Marines and I just went straight into sales. And I found I was really good at sales. I was selling life insurance, literally door to door. I mean, knocking on doors, selling life insurance. And that was not easy. But I just found I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And then that's what I did for many, many years. And it took me into all different, places and opportunities. And I became a certified financial planner. And then, I ended up becoming an entrepreneur in a real estate company and also in mortgage company. And it just took me in all of these areas. So I think that strong background in sales has been instrumental in the vision that we have with Broadstaff today. And that vision being really to build a company that lifts people up and changes lives. And I want that to happen through a company, through a culture, and through everyone we touch.
Wow, that's articulated really well. I'm going to dig into 2 things I heard in that entire thing. So when you grow up, you want to be a country music singer, but you're afraid to get on stage. Years later, your first professional career is door knocking, selling life insurance door to door. So something evolved from the girl who's afraid to get on stage and have fun singing, which was her passion, to someone who left the military and was willing to do door-to-door sales selling life insurance. Can you do an introspective look at yourself and understand what the difference is of who you were, wanting to be a singer, but unconfident to be able to go door-to-door and selling?
That's nobody's ever asked me that, Kevin. It's a good question. I know that after, right? I know that after my dad passed and I went through the Marine Corps, I had something else happened to me as well. So through all of this, I strengthened my relationship with God and I became very, very spiritual. And that purpose that I felt like that I was given, that spiritual purpose, became so strong inside me that spoke louder than any fear I had. And it's like I was determined to be this person that I was supposed to be spiritually. And so that gave me that strength to get out and knock on doors and go for it and not be scared. And, it's interesting because I ended up singing in a band. I joined a band. I sang. I was literally a paid singer in a band. And I wanted to go back to Nashville and make it all happen for myself. But I ended up doing all of that. And I think really it was just, finding that connection to my purpose, my spiritual calling. And I think that made a difference.
Maybe Nashville got it wrong. Maybe it should have been Carrie Charles and not Carrie Underwood. I'm not sure.
It's never too late.
There's one other thing I want to dig in there. What we're just reflecting on a moment too. You mentioned that you never finished your college degree, but you became a certified financial planner. And so, obviously that's probably not an easy test to pass and things of that nature. And so, from not choosing to follow through with your education and take the military route, did you find it difficult to go back and learn how to study and be able to become a certified financial planner?
So I believe in education. I believe in constant lifelong learning. I just don't believe every single person needs a degree from a college,
Absolutely.
Right? A bachelor's degree from a college. So in answer to your question, yes, it was hard. My CFP was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. I mean, it's a really hard test and exam. And, but it was one of those things where I am, again, a lifelong learner. I study, I grow, I have multiple certifications. I'm constantly learning. So it's like a hunger that I have. I never think I know enough. But yeah, I mean, it was very hard, and it still is at my age today. I'm constantly learning new things, and, I have to keep my mind sharp. I'm in my mid-50s, so now it's all about keeping your brain sharp, right?
Right. And I mean, that's part of this podcast. We're sharing inspiration and insights for others to be able to grow from. So hopefully they can find their path to their journey and success, quicker by learning from inspiration and experience of others. And so we appreciate you contributing. And I think, Carrie, you said you don't have to go to college to be successful. And one of my upcoming guests here founded a company that ended up doing over $4 billion a year in revenue. But one of the quotes I'm sure he's going to say, because I've heard him speak before, is he was at best a C student who ended up becoming the CEO and founder of a $4 billion a year company, managing a lot of the people who got straight A's, helping get the job done. And so I think entrepreneurs sometimes are restless and sometimes don't have the patience or want to follow the grain or the path that many others do. They find their ability to stay engaged a different path than the majority. And so, you're just one of those who've proven that, you don't have to take the conventional path to get there. And, your passion for finding your calling from a religious perspective and helping use that as some of your drive, it's a phenomenal set of inspiration and experience to share with some of our guests here that, hopefully find that inspiring to them.
Yes. Thank you. And looking at that, we've also grown. I mean, it's been incredible, the growth that we've experienced, because we've gone from basically, 0 to 30 million in 7 years. Yeah. And last year in 2022, we grew 150%. And, I do believe that part of that is me not knowing. Right. I don't have to know everything, and I don't want to know everything. I don't come from staffing. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't understand it. I knew what it was, but I don't come from that industry. So it's, and I didn't understand it. And there's so much to know and learn. And there's a creative side to it that I think that really drives us, because I what you don't know sometimes is your greatest driver.
Yes. Yeah. Let's kick into gear into Broadstaff a little bit. So, you've gone from 0 to 30 million in revenue in 7 years. Obviously, the Fast 50 here in Tampa Bay has recognized you for it. The Inc. 5000 recognize you for that. But as you're helping your clients grow today, what do you see that they're asking for today? What are your clients asking for?
We'd like to think that the job market has loosened up a bit. I mean, with everything we're going through, the economic conditions, but people are still finding it challenging to find the talent they need, especially the technicians, the laborers, everything from like that $18 an hour to maybe $30 an hour pay range is very difficult right now to find. And, we've loosened up a bit since 2022, with some other, higher level roles, and there's more people that are available now. But it's just interesting because companies are still challenged with finding the talent that they need. And that's the other thing they're challenged with is one more thing I want to mention.
Yes.
Which is this engagement and retention of the talent. Our workforce has changed. It's different, right? And so companies, leaders need to be different. The people that we're leading are different. They have different needs. Mental health is more important than ever in the workplace. It's challenging to be a leader these days. So when you ask, what do these companies need? They need new strategies for retention, new strategies for engagement. And I think that that's something that is something that we provide. I have another company called Retention Partners, and we do work with companies to help them retain. But it's the number one thing on leaders' minds today.
No, and it's so well spoken, and we're seeing it. We're in the digital advertising space, and as many publicly announced layoffs there've been into the media side and technology side, it's still as difficult as ever, I think, to be able to find great talent and stuff like that. And so we're while you would think that the pressure is coming down, it doesn't seem as if we're experiencing that quite yet.
Right.
So it is still continuing to be a challenge. I think part of my next question was, I think you partially answered it, but what do companies need to do right now to differentiate? If they're looking to grow, Again, our podcast is about growth buyer, and it's not just growing your revenues, it's growing, to grow your revenues, you often have to increase your headcount too. How do companies differentiate this new marketplace to help them be more attractive and to also help retain their existing staff?
So I think the first thing that companies need to look at, again, with a new workforce, this new workforce that we have, everything post-COVID, obviously the generations are very different, and there's generational conflict in companies. There's the older generation that's looking at the younger generation saying, they're lazy, they're entitled, and I don't understand this new generation. And so I believe that if companies can really master this solving their generational conflict and understanding how to engage and retain the younger generation, what do they need? What's important to them? How do we build a culture that attracts the younger generation? I mean, the millennials are now our leaders in our companies, right? And it's the largest segment of our workforce. Gen Z is coming along. We have to understand them. We can't complain about them anymore. We have to understand that these generations are an opportunity for the companies. And so, things that are important to this generation are having a sense of purpose. They want to know that what they're doing has purpose. They want a voice. Yes. They want a voice. They want to know that they matter and what they say matters in the company. And more than anything else, I know that we feel like sometimes they just, want a promotion without doing the work, or, they don't necessarily need guidance. They are dying and they're screaming out for mentorship. They want mentorship. And so I think there's a huge opportunity for companies to really understand this younger generation and then create a culture to attract and retain the younger generation.
That's very well spoken. I think, over our upbringing, we've seen generational gaps between expectations and things of this nature. And, complimenting what you said, Carrie, my older son shared something with me a couple of years ago as he was entering the workforce in commercial banking. And, I think when I was raised and in my earlier career, demonstrating that you wanted to take on a lot of responsibility and hard work ethic and spending a lot of time at work and all these things were things that you would do, we were taught was really, really important. And I can remember encouraging my son to make sure he's, first one there, last one to leave and things of that nature.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All this advice and as respectful as he possibly could say, he said to me one day, "Hey, Dad, I really appreciate that. And I know that was your path and your journey, but I can get to the same destination doing it a different and more efficient way." And I was like,
well said.
I was like, that was his generation speaking, not him speaking. And he's spot on accurate. He can get to the same career path in a different journey that's faster and without having to demonstrate. And just because that's what we had to do and the boss before us had to do and the boss before, you just don't have to do it by paying your dues anymore. You can get there a different path. And it was an eye-opener for me to recognize that we can't expect them to do it the way we do. We need to adopt the way they're going to do it, because why make them go through the grind if they can get there in a faster way? And it's so helpful for me. And it was so great for him to speak up and say it as I'm trying to provide him that fatherly love to put a stick in the spokes and derail me for a moment, but he was spot on. And it was very helpful for me from learning in my journey too.
I love that.
So, we're talking about, how we've been evolving in the post-COVID and things of that nature. But if you were to get a telescope out right now and just to look into 2024, what do you think the trends in recruiting talent are going to be on top of the challenges we already have today, trying to figure out where we're at today post-pandemic? Where do you see the headwinds ahead of us that we still aren't even experiencing yet?
So I do believe that this desire for flexibility is not going away. And, there's in-office, remote, and it's still a challenge that we deal with as leaders. But, and again, some leaders or companies who found success are creating hybrid work environments, right? We have one here where we have Mondays and Fridays where we have optional remote days, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in office. And so I think flexibility is going to continue to be something that people want. And not only do they want, they're going to demand it. We struggle with, when we call candidates, they say, we want a remote job. We're not going to take a job until we find something that's remote or find something that's hybrid. Yep. And so I think definitely we're going to see more of that in the future. I think that the other trend that's happening right now that we just have to be careful of is that because the economic conditions are changing, there's more people in the workforce, right? And unfortunately, there's been layoffs, but there's more people in the workforce. So leaders are feeling that they're back in the power seat a bit, that they have more control, more power to say, this is the way it's done. Come back in the office. You got to do this, or you don't need, you're not going to work here unless you do it this way. We have to be very careful with going back to that mentality and the way that it was, pre-COVID years ago, because this new workforce is not going to respond to that well. And so, yes, there are people that are concerned right now about layoffs. There's people that don't have jobs right now because of layoffs. There's more people in the workforce, and I mean, in the that are available. So we do have the opportunity as leaders to have a little bit more power back, but we have to be careful how we use it. And I say we use it to motivate and inspire and empower people. Be concerned about their mental health, care about them, and design a culture where people are going to thrive. And so, in other words, give more versus taking away.
Yep. So I think it's so well spoken. I think, in 2022, it was known as the year of the Great Resignation, right? And so I think employers at that time were scared by making some unpopular decisions that would only encourage the Great Resignation to continue to swell on their organization. And so I view like a pendulum of perfect balance. And during the Great Resignation, employers were saying yes to things they didn't want to say yes to way more frequently. And they were turning their cheek to a lot of behavior that they wish they weren't turning the other cheek to. But in the wake of all this announcement of layoffs and insecurities and things, like the pendulum's come so far over to the other side. I think your advice is don't take advantage of employers, don't take advantage of that and try to claw back some of the things here. Find a nice, easy way to swing in the middle here. Recognize that we won't get back to pre-pandemic stages and embrace what the future is and not fight it. And I think it's really good advice here, because there's certainly, when that pendulum's out of balance, one side's winning, the other side's losing. And in those equations, they can only last for so long before the other side starts to lose too. And I think we've watched that pendulum shift pretty hard in the last 12 months. And it's better when it's essentially balanced. They're not swinging too hard to the right or to the left.
Yes, you're so right. So right.
Carrie, two more questions. One of the things you said is, you love to give back, and you feel like, these generation, this newer generation, as much as more experienced leaders might not know it, they're just dying for mentorship. Have you ever had a mentor? If so, maybe share what their name might be, and maybe talk a little bit about mentors in your life.
Gosh, Kevin, I've had so many mentors and so many coaches. So what I've done is I've consistently in my life had a mentor in each area of my life, right? Everything, whether it's spiritual mentor, physical fitness, business, or financial. And I pick people that are really good in that area. And some of them I pay through a coaching relationship, and some of them, are just people that are generous from their heart mentoring me. Right. But I mean, the list goes on. I have so many people that I could thank for that. And it's been a huge part of my life. I truly, I believe in coaching. I was a coach, and I just believe that why try to figure all of this out on my own? Find someone who's done it and who's good at it, or maybe two or three people. And then, just like your son said, cut that learning curve in half.
Yeah. In your mentorship journey, did you intentionally seek those people out, or are they people you happen to meet and realize, oh, this person has an amazing character and quality in this particular area, and maybe if I spend more time to them, I'll learn some more of it? Has it been a formal approach or kind of an informal reaction?
I would say a little bit of both, but relationships are very important to me. And I maintain relationships, I nurture relationships. And when I find someone who I really believe could be a mentor for me, and, I stay in touch with them and I try to give to them, right? Instead of just being someone who takes and just sits and say, pour into me. Right. I try to see, what can I do for you too? And so it's been a little bit of both. Sometimes I do believe, again, that things happen for a reason, and people are put in our life for a reason. So sometimes, it just happens by chance. I run into someone and I think, what can I learn from this person? And, because I think there's always gold in every conversation and every relationship.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Carrie, last question. Aside of these, collection of mentors you have in different areas of your life, where do you find your inspiration coming from?
A couple of different areas. My kids are a big inspiration for me. They're so much smarter than me. They're driven. They're more efficient. Like you said, they get things done quicker and easier. And, my path to getting something done could be this long, and their path is, is this long. And so I find so much inspiration in just watching them grow and actually learning from them. I'm a big fan of the reverse mentorship where young people mentor me. And I'm a big fan of that. And I think every company should put that into place. My number one inspiration by far is my spiritual practice and my relationship with God. And I always say prayer is a business strategy, and it is the only reason and the biggest reason for my success today.
I love that. That was amazing. That was a great wrap of inspiration there. Oh, we've been talking to Carrie Charles. Carrie, thank you so much for being a guest on our Growth Fire podcast. If anybody wants to reach out to you after they hear this podcast, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Our website at Broadstaff is broadstaffglobal.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as Carrie Charles. And I believe those are those two areas. Whatever you need to do. If you want to call me, call me. I think my phone number is listed on LinkedIn too.
I hope they do. It's been an amazing set of experience sharing and inspiration for everybody. Carrie, thank you so much for being a guest on the Growth Fire podcast. We really appreciate your time spent with us, and congratulations on an amazing journey you've had so far.
Thank you, Kevin. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Growth Fire podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.